On your screen right now is a list of derogatory names the Irish have been called over the years. So whatever did the fun-loving ancient Irish race do to deserve such hate? That question's older than you think, going as far back as 1400 years ago when the Welsh named the Irish Gwydel, meaning wild men or savages. But this was just the beginning. A peak hate for the Irish came when this word on your screen became common parlance when describing Irish folk in America. Shocked that the N-word was also used for the Irish? Then clutch those pearls tighter now, because it gets worse. Blacks and Irish were once hated equally and often described interchangeably. This term, the smoked Irish, sorry, you have to laugh sometimes. This term, the smoked Irish, was often used for black people in America during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Then there's how the Irish were popularly portrayed. Take a look at this political cartoon, which plays on the defunct but once common term for working class Irish people, the Shanty Irish, turning that term here into the Ashanti Irish, as in the Ashanti of Ghana. The cartoon comes complete with an Irishman and his wife depicted as half chimpanzee, half human layabouts. I told you it gets worse. So again, what did the Irish do to deserve this much hate, even being lumped with, well, us black folks? Truth is, nobody really knows, not even those who hated the Irish, until now. It's the middle of the 12th century and a Catholic monk by the name of Galfridus Monemutensis, aka Geoffery of Monmouth, has just compiled the most popular who's who of English history for the next 400 years. A history of the kings of Britain, written in 1136, purports to be a historically accurate list of the kings of England and their achievements. Problem is, it includes the mythical King Arthur, who in fairness to Geoffrey, was likely to have been a real king only shrouded in mythos. This aside, many of Geoffrey's claims have recently been substantiated by archaeological evidence. But one of Geoffrey's more controversial claims is the one we're interested in, and it's the one which leads us down a very dark path in our quest for answers about the Irish. You might even say, a black path. Historia Regum Britanniae by Geoffrey of Monmouth, written in the year of our Lord, 1136. Quote, Gormund was rich and powerful, and he was a man of very great valour. He was bold and of noble disposition, and he came from a very important family. He was from Africa, the son of a king who followed the pagan religion. He would have had the kingdom after his father and been king if he wanted to be, but he did not wish to, or deign to be king. He gave the kingdom to one of his brothers. Across the sea he would go, he said, making conquests. He sought sailors, helmsmen, and various types of ships. Gormund took with him in his ship 160,000 armed men. He sailed across many great seas, capturing many islands and many kings, till he arrived safely in Ireland. He captured it quickly and styled himself the King of Ireland. Close quote. This mysterious African king, Gormund, didn't stop there. What follows his conquest of Ireland, according to Geoffrey and other sources, is an even stranger incident, something that might well explain the age-old animosity towards the Irish by their English-speaking cousins. Geoffrey claims that the king, Gormund, didn't stop at Ireland, but that he involved himself in a political dispute across the Irish Sea in England. Over there, Geoffrey tells us that the relative newcomers, the Saxons, had revolted against the native English monarch, a King Ceredic. To secure the success of their revolt, the Saxons send a plea to the Irish, now under the Black King Gormund, begging him to aid them against Ceredic. We don't know why Gormund chose the side of the Saxons, only that he answered their call with a huge war fleet dispatched to English shores. According to Geoffery of Monmouth and other medieval sources, Gormund was brutal. He showed Ceredic and the native Britons no mercy, driving their armies from city to city till they were forced into a last stand at the city of Cirensta. Cirensta put up a good fight and looked almost impregnable for a while, but it too fell and was promptly burnt to the ground. Disgraced, Ceredic and the Britons fled to Wales and Cornwall as political refugees. The Britons did not regain the upper hand against the Saxons till centuries later, but in the immediate aftermath of his victory, the African king Gormund did something very strange. Instead of double-crossing the Saxons and establishing a colony in England, like almost every other warlord in history would have done, he divides England up among his Saxon allies, while he himself remained content to govern Ireland alone. But is there any evidence of African warlords invading Irish land and devastating English towns? Judge for yourself. The period in which Gormund is supposed to have risen is one of immense change across Europe. That change was precipitated by the shifting power balance between the global north and the global south. The first true marker of this shift would see the Moors, native African converts to the new religion of Islam, taking back North Africa and much of southern Europe from the declining Romans, places like modern-day Spain, Portugal, Greek islands, and even parts of Italy. But this shift was preceded by the persistent raids of Moorish pirates on several coastal European communities, like those of Ireland and England, and even as far north as Scandinavia. How do we know this? From the records of these people themselves. A 19th century researcher skeptical of the Monmouth account admits this much about the name Gormund. Quote, "Gormund is the Irish word to express the color blue," close quote, as in a very dark blue, so dark in English we call it blue-black. This association of blue with black isn't new. The ancient Egyptians also used blue as a substitute for black to denote a hue of particularly obsidian color. Thousands of miles and years apart, the Old Irish followed suit when describing a 10th century battle between Viking pirates and a Moorish navy. Per the Annals of Ireland, a collection of Gaelic chronicles penned in the 12th century, quote, "They carried off a great host of the Moors as captives to Erin, Ireland, and these are the blue men of Erin, for Maori or Moors is the same as black men, and Mauritania is the same as blackness," close quote. Regrettably for those who deny the presence of a black majority native to North Africa since time immemorial, this medieval account makes no bones about the identity of the Moors separate to their religion, calling them black and akin to blackness. This backs up the 10th century Persian document known as Udud al-Alman, which called the inhabitants of Morocco at the time al-Aswad, literally black. But more than that, the annals claim that these exceptionally dark Africans found their way to Ireland and became so embedded within Irish society, they were known as the Blue Men of Erin. And further on, the annals say this, quote, "Long indeed were these blue men in Erin," close quote. So then, gleaning from these accounts, it seems the truth about Geoffrey's own account lies somewhere in the middle. Geoffrey was writing centuries after the events he purported to write about. In doing this, he might have conflated two separate historical phenomena. One, black pirates raiding the Irish coast for white slaves, a fact known to but often obscured by historians. And two, the Battle of Intercourse during the 10th century, in which Vikings defeated Moorish corsairs and made off from North Africa with captives. Whatever the exact facts are, the evidence seems to indicate strongly the forgotten presence of an influential black people in Ireland, accounting for the half-legends of a black king on the Emerald Isle. What seems even more certain, however, is that this black influence was so domineering that the English nation resented it so much that in the epigenetic psyche of the English-speaking peoples, the Irish seem to have been forever negatively associated with these blacks. But even the Irish did not necessarily remember these aggressive blacks favourably. This is a Fomorian, or at least a modern reimagining of one. As per Irish folklore, the Fomorians were an ancient seafaring race of black-skinned people from the south of their western sea. Their name is a combination of a Gaelic prefix with the word Mór or Moor. What's more, the Fomorians were thought to possess magical powers akin to that of the gods. This corresponds with how many European populations saw the Moors and their many medicinal and technological advancements at a time when much of Europe had regressed into a dark age. Dr. Onyeka Nubia documents this in his books Blackamoors and England's Other Countrymen. Still, our investigation doesn't end here. Almost unbelievably, the presence of blacks in Ireland might go back further than this. Antiquated artifacts have been found depicting people clearly not stereotypically Irish in appearance. Establishment researchers, afraid of their peers, attribute these to the Roman trade with Ireland. Yet even before the Romans, Ephorus, a Greek historian contemporary with Alexander the Great, claimed there were Celts the colour of Ethiopians on the coasts of Ireland. Sadly, only fragments of Ephorus's work are available to historians today. This still didn't stop famous Irish scholar Eugene O'Growney from deducing that the original Celts of Ireland were a dark-skinned and dark-haired people from Iberia, the south of Spain in modern terms. What happened to these ancient black Celts? O'Growney claims they were eventually overwhelmed by the Gauls from mainland Europe. O'Growney's surmisals might sound far-fetched, but they too are backed up by evidence. An ancient black population is thought to have overran southern Spain between the 8th and 7th century BC during the spreading out of the Kushite Empire and its Phoenician allies. Ancient Roman author Strabo, quote, "The Tartessians, the ancient Spaniards, reports that Ethiopians overran Libya or North Africa as far as its western limits, and that some of them stayed, while others occupied a great part of the Iberian seaboard." Close quote. Strangely enough, North Africa, Spanish islands and the southern coast of Spain are home to the ancient coins and statues you can see on your screen right now. And this ancient black population to which they belonged lasted so long in Spain that Isidore of Seville, a Spanish priest during the Byzantine era, documented their presence, saying, quote, "There are 3 tribes of Ethiopians, Hesperians, Garamantes and Indians. The Hesperians are those who live alongside Spain, for Hispania is Hesperia." Close quote. Nothing but a prejudiced view of Africans says that pockets of these people couldn't have made it as far as Ireland. But even more than this, through the work of scholars like Dr. Campbell Dunn, the Basque language of southern Spain has been traced back to the Niger-Congo languages. Dr. Campbell Dunn has established that the language spoken by the Basque was a substratum of the Niger-Congo languages, sharing personal pronouns, numerals and vocabulary items. But the doctor's research has gone further. Genetically, Dr. Campbell Dunn has suggested that there are ties between Basque and Niger-Congo speakers, as both groups share haplogroups originating in Africa. Quote, "The shores of the Aegean and Mediterranean therefore were originally occupied by Africans and subsequently overlaid by Afro-Asiatic farmers. It follows that the Mediterranean was once, in the remote past, the home of African blacks." But this is not a linguistic question and raises controversial issues outside the ambit of our inquiry, so we will not pursue it further. Close quote. but we will. Most of the people of Ireland and Western European descent carry the genetic haplogroup R1b1b. This is the map the public is often shown of the distribution of this haplogroup. But it doesn't take too much digging to find that, like much in human history, this European haplogroup originated from deep within Africa and can still be found very strongly along a specific belt of West, Central and East African countries, spanning northeast Nigeria, Congo, the Central African Republic, and parts of the northern Sudan. If this is correct, then that would explain why early ethnographers like George Gomm admitted that the original Celtic language was not of Aryan or Teutonic origin, but of some mysterious source. Charles Squire, in his book Celtic Myth and Legend, went further, stating that the earliest group to inhabit the British Isles was short, swarthy, dark-haired, dark-eyed and long-skulled. Its language belonged to the class called Hamitic, and it seems to have come originally from some part either of Eastern, Northern or Central Africa." Close quote. This doesn't mean, of course, that all the ancient Irish were Africoid, but it does prove that the sea was not a barrier to ancient populations Western academia has long considered inferior. Why should it have, if it proved no barrier to their lighter-skinned counterparts? So, was the epigenetic trauma of this black population mingling successively with the quote white Irish, using their island as a base to raid and interfere with the English, the Welsh and Scots, the reason why the Irish came to be synonymous with the black body long after the memory of the Fomorians and black pirates had been removed from the collective white memory? This is an investigation that goes further than the remit of this video, but if you want us to dig further, you must support the Kush-to-Compton movement, a movement of epic proportions threatening to capsize the Eurocentric view that has dominated the world for the last 500 years. Beware the danger of a single story, warns the Nigerian author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. For too long, Western science and research has ignored this timeless warning. Like this video and subscribe to the channel to show your appreciation of our investigation. And if you're already a subscriber, you can help us produce more of this research by hitting the membership button below to become a scholar, soldier or a sage of the Trill Black Nation. And for the propagation of the culture, check out our Kush-to-Compton clothing range at trillblack.myshopify.com. Finally, let us know down in the comments whether you have any stories or lived experiences of the links between the Great Irish people and the black diaspora. Until next time, from Kush all the way to Compton and back again, this has been Trill Black, no doubt.